I followed my crush into the quiet school basement, thinking it might finally be my chance to talk to Herbert. I quickly realized I shouldn't be there. I knew the moment I stepped into the basement that following her had been a mistake. Liam Carter stood frozen near the bottom of the narrow concrete stairwell, gripping the strap of his backpack a little tighter than necessary. The hallway lights above buzzed softly, and somewhere in the distance a door slammed upstairs. The sound echoed down the stairwell like a reminder that he didn't belong here. Just 10 minutes earlier, he had been sitting in the quiet school library, pretending to review chemistry notes. In reality, he had been watching the rain slide down the tall windows. It was late October in Dayton, Ohio, and the kind of gray afternoon where the sky never really seemed to get bright. Classes had ended almost an hour ago, and most students had already gone home. The school always felt different after hours too quiet, like the building itself was resting. Liam liked that part. Silence made things easier. He could think without worrying about saying the wrong thing. He could avoid conversations that left him replaying every word in his head afterward. He was packing his notebook into his bag when he noticed her walk past the library door. Maya Thompson. She moved quickly down the hallway, her dark sweater hanging loosely over one shoulder, and her long hair still slightly damp from the rain outside. Most people walked casually through the halls after school. Maya. Then she kept glancing behind her like she didn't want anyone to notice where she was going. Liam had only spoken to her twice since she transferred to Roosevelt High at the start of the semester. Once in English class, when she asked for a pen. Once, when they accidentally reached for the same chair in the cafeteria. Both times, he had managed about 3 sentences before his brain stopped cooperating. Still, something about her stayed in his thoughts longer than it should have. Maybe it was the way she always seemed confident around everyone else. Or maybe it was the small moments when she wasn't. Like the way she sometimes sat alone outside the gym before practice, or how she stared at her phone during lunch like she was waiting for a message that never came. Liam zipped his backpack and stepped into the hallway, just as Maya turned the corner near the old stairwell, the one that led down to the basement level. Students weren't supposed to go down there unless they had drama club or maintenance work. Most people avoided it. The lighting was dim, and the air always smelled faintly like dust and old cardboard. Liam slowed his steps. He could have gone home. His bus stop was 2 blocks away, and the rain outside had already started picking up. But curiosity tugged at him. Why was she going down there? His brain immediately supplied the more important question. Why did he care? He stood there for a moment, shifting his weight from one foot to the other while the hallway lights hummed overhead. Don't do it, he thought. Just go home. But his feet were already moving. The stairwell door closed slowly behind him with a soft thud. The air felt colder as he stepped down the concrete steps. Each footstep echoed faintly, and Liam found himself trying to walk quieter without even realizing it. Halfway down the stairs, he paused. This was weird. Following someone, especially someone you barely knew, was not exactly normal behavior. He rubbed the back of his neck, already feeling the first wave of regret creeping in. What am I doing? He considered turning around, but then he heard a voice. Maya's voice. It came from somewhere down the hallway beyond the basement landing. Soft, almost careful. I just needed a minute, she was saying. Liam stopped moving. There was another voice. Tu loir? Arder? Tu air. He couldn't make out the words. The hallway at the bottom of the stairs stretched toward a row of storage rooms and an old theater rehearsal space the drama club sometimes used. Most of the lights were on, but they flickered slightly like they hadn't been replaced in years. Liam stayed near the stairwell door, telling himself he wasn't really spying. He was just standing there. Still, his stomach twisted uncomfortably. Maya's voice drifted down the hall again. I'm fine. I just didn't want to go home yet. The other voice replied quietly. Liam leaned back against the wall, staring at the cracked linoleum floor. He suddenly felt like he had walked into the middle of someone else's private moment, and he hated that feeling. The smart thing would be to leave. Right now, before anyone saw him. Before this got even more awkward. He slowly shifted his backpack higher on his shoulder and turned toward the stairs. The metal door creaked loudly behind him as he pushed it open. The sound sliced through the quiet basement like a siren. The voices down the hallway stopped. Completely. Liam froze. His chest tightened as he realized exactly what had just happened. They heard that. Of course they heard that. For a few seconds, the entire basement felt suspended in silence. He stared at the stairwell, debating whether to just run upstairs and pretend none of this ever happened. But footsteps were already moving toward the corner of the hallway. Slow. Careful. Liam swallowed hard. He had wanted an excuse to talk to Maya for months. This definitely wasn't the one he had imagined. He took a small step backward, feeling suddenly like he was 14 again instead of 17. His brain scrambled for a believable explanation. Maybe he could say he got lost, or that he thought drama practice was happening. Neither sounded convincing. The footsteps grew closer. A shadow stretched across the hallway floor near the corner. Liam's heart pounded against his ribs. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to look normal, even though nothing about this situation felt normal. For the first time since he started following her, he wished he had just gone home. Outside, rain tapped steadily against the narrow basement windows. The sound filled the silence as Liam stood there, waiting for Maya to turn the corner and see him.
The shadow reached the corner first, and Maya stepped into view. She stopped almost immediately when she saw him standing there near the stairwell, one hand still resting awkwardly on the metal door. For a second, neither of them spoke. Liam felt the heat crawl up the back of his neck. His brain searched desperately for something normal to say, but every possible sentence sounded strange in his head. Maya's eyebrows pulled together slightly. Liam. Her voice held more confusion than anything else. Behind her, a man in a gray maintenance uniform appeared in the hallway doorway. He looked older, mid-twenties, maybe with the same dark hair and similar eyes as Maya. He held a ring of janitor keys that clinked softly when he stopped. The man glanced between them. "You know him?" he asked. Maya nodded slowly, though her eyes stayed on Liam. "Yeah, he's in my English class." The silence that followed felt heavier than the basement air. Liam finally forced his mouth to move. I wasn't trying to. I wasn't spying or anything." The words stumbled out too fast. Maya folded her arms lightly across her sweater, waiting. Liam exhaled through his nose. "I saw you come down here," he said. "I thought maybe, I don't know." He rubbed the back of his neck again, a habit that showed up whenever he was nervous. "I just followed you." The explanation hung there. Even he knew how ridiculous it sounded. The man in the uniform looked like he was trying not to smile. Maya glanced over her shoulder at him. "This is my brother, Daniel," she said quietly. Daniel lifted one hand in a casual wave. "Hey!" Liam nodded once. "Hey!" Daniel studied Liam for a moment longer, then gently tapped the keys against his palm. "Well," he said, glancing at Maya, "I should finish locking up the gym anyway." Maya looked slightly relieved. "Yeah, okay." Daniel gave Liam a polite nod before walking down the hall. His footsteps faded gradually, followed by the faint rattle of a door closing somewhere deeper in the building. The basement fell quiet again. Maya shifted her weight and looked back at Liam. "So," she said, "you followed me?" There was no accusation in her voice, just simple curiosity. Liam wished there had been anger instead. Anger would have been easier to deal with. "Yeah," he admitted. Rain tapped against the small windows near the ceiling. Maya studied him for a few seconds, as if deciding whether to laugh or sigh. Eventually, she did a little of both. "That's kind of weird, Liam, I know." He didn't even try to defend himself. Another moment passed before she asked, "Why?" The question was simple, but Liam's chest tightened anyway. He looked down at the scuffed floor tiles. "I thought maybe you needed help with something," he said at first. Even as the words came out, he knew they sounded thin. Maya tilted her head slightly. "You don't even know where the drama storage room is." "Yeah," Liam said quietly. The corner of her mouth lifted. He hesitated, and then he let the real answer come out. "I guess I just wanted an excuse to talk to you," Maya blinked once. The fluorescent lights hummed faintly above them. "You could have just said hi," she said. Liam gave a short, awkward laugh. "It's not really my strength." She seemed to consider that. The tension in her shoulders softened a little. She said after a moment, "Now you're here." He nodded. Neither of them moved right away. Finally, Maya walked over and sat down on the bottom step of the stairwell. The metal railing creaked softly as she leaned back against it. She gestured toward the step above her. "You might as well sit before this gets even more uncomfortable." Liam hesitated only a second before lowering himself onto the step. The concrete felt cold through his jeans. For a while, they just listened to the rain outside. Upstairs, a locker slammed somewhere far down the hall. Maya pulled the sleeves of her sweater over her hands. "Sorry if that was awkward," she said quietly. "My brother comes here after work sometimes." Liam nodded. "I figured." She glanced sideways at him. "You figured, well, you two look alike?" She smiled faintly. "Yeah, people say that." Another pause settled between them, but it felt different now, less tense. Liam watched a drop of rain slide slowly down the small window near the ceiling. "I didn't know students were allowed down here," he said. "We're not," Maya admitted. "Daniel just lets me sit here sometimes." "Why?" She took a second before answering. "Because it's quiet." Liam understood that immediately. "Yeah," he said. She leaned her head lightly against the railing. "My mom and I just moved here a few months ago," she continued. "Things at home are kind of complicated." Liam didn't ask for details. He just nodded again. Sometimes silence was better than questions. "I used to know everybody at my old school," Maya said. "It feels like I'm starting over every day. That sounds exhausting." She gave a small laugh. "It is." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Maya looked at him again. "So you've liked me for months?" The question caught him off guard. His ears burned slightly. "I didn't say that. You kinda did." He exhaled slowly. "Okay, maybe." Her expression softened, but she didn't tease him. Instead, she asked quietly, "Why?" Liam shrugged. "I don't know. You seem real." She raised an eyebrow. "Real?" "Like you're not pretending all the time," he explained. "Most people at school feel like they're performing for someone." Maya looked thoughtful. "I definitely perform sometimes. Everyone does," Liam said. Leaned forward slightly, resting her elbows on her knees. "You're very observant for someone who barely talks." "That's because I barely talk." That made her laugh. It wasn't loud or dramatic, just a genuine sound that echoed gently in the empty stairwell. For the first time since he'd followed her downstairs, Liam felt the tightness in his chesties. After a minute, Maya glanced toward the hallway where her brother had gone. "He worries about me," she said. "That's why he lets me sit down here. It's easier than going straight home sometimes." Liam nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that." She studied him again. "You do?" "My dad works nights," Liam said. "My mom's always tired. The house gets quiet, too quiet." "Exactly." Maya leaned back against the railing again. "Funny," she said softly. "We both came down here for the same reason. The rain outside had started to slow." Liam noticed the way the basement light reflected in small puddles along the window ledge. After a while, Maya stood up. "I should probably head home before Daniel finishes locking up," she said. Liam rose too, brushing dust off his jeans. They walked up the stairs together. At the top landing, Maya pushed the door open, and warm hallway air drifted in. The school felt different now, less empty somehow. Before stepping out, Maya turned to him. "You know," she said, "next time you want to talk to me, you don't have to follow me into a basement." Liam smiled awkwardly. "Good to know." She studied him for one more second, and she said, "But I'm glad you did." The hallway lights stretched in a long yellow line toward the front entrance. Outside, the rain had almost stopped. They walked toward the doors together, not rushing. For once, Liam didn't feel like he needed to hide behind silence. And as the cool evening air drifted through the open doors, the moment didn't feel like a mistake anymore, just the quiet beginning of something he hadn't expected.